This episode of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast is brought to you by JCI. Protect your parking garages with confidence using Johnson Control fire sprinklers. Engineered for today's complex risks, including EVs and automated systems, with decades of proven expertise, we can help you stay ahead of evolving codes, technologies, and hazards. Trust Johnson Controls to deliver fire protection solutions that move with the future. To learn more, visit tyco-fire.com.
Like and subscribe.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Fire Sprinkler Podcast. We are recording live in Las Vegas. It's not live, but we are in Vegas at the NFPA 2025. I'm here with Melissa Rodriguez. We are going to talk a little bit about parking garages, changes to the standards, requirements, why, when, if, how.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything.
A lot of stuff happening in the world of parking garages.
Before we get into parking garages, tell me about yourself.
I am Melissa Rodriguez, as mentioned. I am Senior Manager of Industry Relations with Johnson Controls.
A new position?
That's a new title, new position, yes.
How are you liking it?
Loving it. It means I get to be a lot more involved in the codes and standards development process. And
awesome.
I love doing that. I like serving on those technical committees. So now it's my job to do that.
You used to do it before, but now you get paid for it.
I did it, but now I have to.
That's right, yeah.
Maybe I won't have as much fun anymore. I don't know.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
And then I get to be really kind of involved in the industry organizations, industry relations. And so it's a lot of things that I enjoy the most about what we do. And now it's my job.
They're just making you do it as opposed to volunteering for it now.
Exactly.
Awesome. So getting into parking garages, there's been a lot of changes to the parking garage standards. What do you think is the first one that we should probably talk about? I would say kicking off with NFPA 13. NFPA 13, the 2022 edition, a major change to the parking garage requirement. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, they changed, and so if you're familiar with NFPA 13, we have light hazard, ordinary hazard, extra hazard. They don't specifically call out what is or isn't in the body of the standard. You have to go to the annex sections. Then in the annex sections that talks about light, ordinary, extra, they've got lists of examples of what fall into those categories. So historically, parking garages have been listed as ordinary hazard group 1. So 0.15 density.
Over 1,500.
Over 1,500. And one of the big changes is that now in that annex section, parking garages are ordinary hazard group 2.
What was the kickoff for that?
I think, I don't know who first floated that possible change. There was more and more conversations happening about, hey, are modern vehicles the same as legacy old metal box vehicles? There's so much plastic in and around cars. The gas tanks used to be metal. Now the gas tanks are plastic. So theoretically what we've got is exposed, unexpanded plastic fires. So people have said, hey, I think maybe these are more hazardous fires than they ever used to be. We need to adapt. There was a lot of discussion. Some people were like, where's the statistics, the data, the fire test data to back it up? We do have fire test data for vehicles. It's limited. It could be better. But we do, have some comparisons. NFPA's Fire Prevention Research Foundation has already done 2 phases of a study on modern vehicles and things like electric vehicles and stuff like that, but we'll talk about that too.
A little bit later.
One of the things is they analyzed how much more plastic is in modern vehicles compared to legacy vehicles. And they compare heat release rates in these fire tests. And so it is showing that they are indeed a more hazardous fire. And the question becomes, was OH2 the right place to land?
Is it enough?
Is it enough? There are certainly people with opinions that we should be doing extra hazard group 2 for automobiles.
Wow.
Now, is that enough? And again, most people will say we don't have enough data yet. We need to burn a lot of vehicles. We're all secretly pyros in this industry.
Let me know when you're doing that. That'd be great content. Also, a good opportunity to visit the JCI burn lab.
I don't think we're burning them there. Now, they are burning, so they're in phase 3 of the Research Foundation study where they're burning a lot of vehicles. So I know a lot of the burns are happening overseas, but we're starting to hear rumors of how that's going. They've been sprinkling, non-sprinkling, they're getting some more test data, putting 0.2 densities on these test fires. I think preliminarily we're seeing that 0.2 appears to be appropriate. When people were saying that, well, how can we be assured that's enough? And I was like, wait, we should be able to just use math.
Sure.
Technically,
take it into consideration. If you take a car, and even if it is completely a plastic vehicle, which it's not.
Yeah.
Group A plastic stored to 5 feet, is what hazard? It's not ordinary hazard, but it is in small storage arrangements.
And we've got these charts that show that heat release rate. Now, here's the fun thing about being an engineer is you can use heat transfer, like the properties of water. You can say, look, that's putting out this much energy.
Yeah.
Heat release rate is just energy over time.
Okay.
And you can equate that to, joules or whatever, and you know how much heat can be absorbed by water. I mean, we know these things.
The volume of water, yep.
So how much energy it takes to raise the temperature of water by 1 degree, it's the property specific something.
You're the engineer. I'm just the guy with a microphone.
But then there's the other thing so water is such a fantastic tool for fighting fires because of its capacity to absorb so much energy before it increases in temperature. And then there's the latent heat of vaporization. So when it goes from liquid to vapor, it absorbs a massive amount of energy. So we can use that to calculate how much water we would need to control a fire.
Yep.
Control means 60, 70, I forget what it is. Like to control a fire, we're not absorbing all the heat.
Right.
If we absorbed all the heat produced by a fire, we would extinguish
Suppression,
it.
yeah.
So control the fire, we're just absorbing enough to kind of keep it steady. So you can calculate based off of an average heat release rate how much water is needed. And I did that calculation. Somebody challenged me at a bar one night at one of our...
This was bar math?
Bar math. I did bar math. And
I'm a long ways away from being an engineer. I'm a long ways away from being an engineer.
And I was like, look, you can show. We've got some data. Ordinary hazard group 2 seems pretty appropriate. And I think thankfully, that my bar math is proving to be pretty accurate. There was an article in AFSA's magazine where they made me take that bar math and write an article.
On a piece of paper?
Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah.
Go find it. Everybody's like, oh, this is so great. I'm like, there's a lot of assumptions that
I can
made.
go over it again, but we're going to need more beers.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of like is ordinary hazard group 2 appropriate? Probably.
Sure.
The question is that the same for electric vehicles? So we have burn result data, we have test data from electric vehicles, and the question is was the battery involved or not? If it's not, they burn much. It's the same. Same. If the battery is involved, which is way more rare than it seems like. It's always in the news that there's been an electric vehicle fire. And
the joy of the expansion of social media, right?
When you see a fire where the battery is actually involved, they're spectacular fires. They are very dramatic. A lot of sparks and shooting things, but they don't burn hotter. They don't automatically burn at a higher heat release rate.
Okay.
They burn a long time. Mm-hmm. So we're still getting more data to back that up, but I think we're starting to see that that's still the case. So same amount of water, maybe a longer duration. And so I think that's where we're actually leaning on, like the NFPA 88A is the standard for parking garages, and to address electric vehicles, that's the direction that committee is kind of leaning, is just increasing duration.
So water supply duration in NFPA 13 goes up to 120 minutes. Mm-hmm. So what are you looking at for 88A?
Well, for electric vehicles, it is actually 120 minutes, because right now the duration for just an ordinary Group 2 is like 90.
Yes.
So it is increasing it, but just enough. Just a little bit longer so that the fire department has that extra help, because they're going to bring their own water supply, but they just need to keep cooling the adjacent vehicles. That's right.
That's the thing with thermal runaway is it's not about extinguishing a battery that's already involved. It's about preventing the other ones from carrying on.
And in most of the publicized parking garage fires that we have seen over the last handful of years, the single biggest factor to whether or not we've got a catastrophic failure is, did it start to spread from the car of origin?
Sure.
So in all of cases, we just need to be focusing on that, keeping that fire contained to 1 or 2 vehicles.
Now, when you look at the media, we're seeing a lot of electric vehicle fires happening over in Europe.
Yeah.
And they're magnificent, large fires. What are they doing different over there that's causing these massive fires that we're not seeing here, where complete parking structures are going up and collapsing and failing? What's the difference between what they're doing and what we're doing?
So you're right. And for one, they're open parking garages. They're not sprinklered, but they're not sprinklered here either. When we have a vehicle fire in a parking garage here, you're right, we're not seeing that full collapse. Building standards are a little different, so the construction type of the parking garages in the UK, for example, they may not be non-combustible construction. If we look at those pictures and we see that those steel beams, they're not fireproofed.
Not fire rated. They're not.
Fire
Yep.
rated.
Exactly. Yep.
And yeah, they're getting hot enough that the concrete is spalling. So that's over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit,
Yep.
and the concrete literally just disintegrates.
Yep.
So I don't know why they seem to be having more fires, but we have fires here in parking garages too. In Jacksonville, just a month ago, there
Right.
was a parking
Yes.
garage,
Yep.
and it had a partial structure
Yep.
collapse.
That's right. Yep.
So I don't know that they're necessarily, they just might not have as stringent of construction standards.
Yep.
But the biggest common denominator, though, is that these are non-sprinklered buildings usually. And historically, open parking garages have not required sprinklers.
Right.
That's the other big change, that NFPA standards and the ICC codes are making that change, and now all new parking garages will require sprinklers.
All new open and enclosed?
Open and enclosed.
Okay. So your NFPA, when the ICC kicks in and says you have to sprinkler this, and you go to NFPA 13, you say it's got to be OH2 over 1,500.
And if it kicks you to 13, we're hoping to get some really good cohesiveness across codes and the NFPA standards. If you're in an NFPA state where you're using NFPA 1 and 101, it pushes you to 88A.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So 1 and 101 require, they have that change already. All parking garages require sprinklers. 88A, all parking garages require sprinklers. So
we were talking a little bit when we're saying all parking garages, we were talking about one allowance, and it's size-based?
in that the size-based allowance comes up from the ICC still.
Okay.
So there's no square foot threshold in 88A. It's just all parking garages.
Just all parking garages sprinklers.
But we're still usually, the codes and standards are sometimes a complicated, interconnected process.
Yep.
But in the IBC, the section about parking garages and defining open or enclosed, that section, when you say an enclosed parking garage, has always said that they shall be provided with automatic sprinklers, and then the unenclosed did not. Now, it still doesn't say that in that section. I think that still needs a little bit of cleanup.
Yep.
But if you go to the occupancy sections where you say you want to know, do I need to sprinkle an assembly occupancy if it's over 15,000 square feet, I'm guessing, you have to sprinkle it.
Yep.
The parking garages section now has a much lower square footage threshold for open or enclosed. It's
something that would,
like 12,000
you're never going to
square
build it. And you're not going to build a parking garage that's that size.
So yeah, the ICC standards or the ICC codes, new ones, the model codes, are going to require sprinklers in all of the garages. And then it's when does the individual state adopt it? What version are they on? Will they amend that? Because they don't have to adopt the model code.
That's right.
As is. That's what happened with residential. Model codes required it in single family homes, but almost every state amended it out. So I think we're going to see some of that. An example, Florida did amend theirs. Their square footage threshold is higher.
Okay.
They've amended some stuff out to maybe not have to sprinkle all. But Florida is a weird state. They follow the Florida Building Code and NFPA 101.
That'll be the clip.
Yeah.
Florida's a weird state.
Florida's
That's it.
weird. You guys in Florida. But no, I learned this when I was teaching a class on parking garages in Florida, and they said, but we follow both. And so in a lot of cases, it's whatever is more stringent. Now,
is there going to be any retrofit clause in there where retrofitting, or are you going to go back and make sure that some of these larger unsprinklered parking garages are retrofitted? Is there any kind of
There's no actions
discussion?
Kind of pushing that yet. I think they consider just getting
recommend
new
it all
ones.
you want. Yeah, recommend it all you want, but it's not.
It's a minimum. They're all minimum standards.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's just really a matter of acceptable levels of risk to the people that own these structures. Like, they're seeing a lot of bad fires. Do I want bad sprinklers? Is it worth it?
Yeah.
That's the question there. So no proposals for retrofitting quite yet.
Okay. We had one more thing that we were going to talk about. Did we hit everything?
So we talked about sprinkler requirements and ordinary hazard too, and we've talked a little about EVs. And so the other cool part in 88A that we are finally addressing, because there's been a gap. NFPA 13 always kind of has some gaps.
Yep.
They did add some structure around what you need to do if you're dealing with like a two-car stacker.
Oh, yes.
So we're going to talk about stackers and parking systems. So a two-car stacker, you might see those on like showroom floors, like stick one, or you might see them sometimes where you do need to try to cram more vehicles in a smaller space. So 13 did make a change to say that a 2-car stacker is extra hazard group too.
Okay.
You got 1 car on top of another, EH2, mainly because that's a shielded fire if the bottom car is.
I was just going to say, you have an obstruction over 4 feet. Are you sprinklering every level?
That's such a good question. What a good lead-in. So
Done this before.
EH2 for a 2-car stacker, but if you do sprinkle between the 2 vehicles, you can drop that ceiling hazard to OH2 again.
Okay.
That's what 13 currently says.
So with that, with the OH2 requirement, and it being a slightly higher commodity, are you calculating obstructed sprinklers in that regard now?
What you mean? So
if you have a stack of, if you have a row of 4 or 5 of these cars, your design area is going to be the roof level. Because you're.
I see what you're saying.
Are you including the obstructed sprinklers where normally you wouldn't have to if you have a 4x4?
Right. You wouldn't have to calculate.
That's right. You wouldn't have to include that sprinkler.
They did not. So, yeah, and they made the change, but some people kind of pointed out that it doesn't really help too much because you don't have guidance like that. They don't get that specific. So 88A, our technical committee for that standard, has taken it upon ourselves to remedy that by providing really good direction on what to do if you have a stacker where you're going to put those intermediate sprinklers and how many you have to calculate and how much they need to be flowing per. So we're proposing that. We're actually, so that standard is about to go into second draft.
Okay.
It's
in this. Second draft. So it's
October.
Not in the voting yet. Okay.
Yeah, not in the voting. So we've just closed public comments, and so we'll be ready to go into our second draft meetings this year. For I think first week of November. Okay. A lot of work's been done. We've had a lot of significant task group work happening on that one for electric vehicles, parking systems, and that's not just 2-car stackers because that's one type. But the stackers can get really tall.
Absolutely.
They can be robotic where they're going in and out, and they can be fully automated. Like think Carvana vending machine. Automatic storage retrieval systems for cars. Exactly.
So you have 2 super high hazard commodities combined.
So a lot of people look at it and say, well, this just looks like a high piled storage commodity. I mean, these are massive structures when you see them.
Multi-row rack storage.
There's no guidance on how to do that. And so those are, you're stuck with nothing but doing a performance-based design. Not a lot of people have a lot of confidence in doing a performance-based design. Sure. HJs don't, they are the ones that have to approve a performance-based design. It makes people uncomfortable. I can see it. Our task group has put in a ton of work to do a framework of prescriptive guidance for these types of fully automated parking systems. We're putting in, flows and densities and how many sprinklers, and it's a very conservative prescriptive design, but it's kind of the point. People can still come up with something performance-based. They can do, computer-based modeling. They can do their own full-scale fire tests.
If you're doing a full-scale model test of a parking garage, call me.
We have a guy in our task group who actually makes these fully automated parking systems. He is more than willing to let us come burn stuff. So he's like, let's burn some cars. And we're like, okay, Gerhard, you have to get permits. Like, they don't just let you light stuff on fire.
Not just they may. They'll respond accordingly.
Yes.
Yeah, so, you got to tell the right people.
There's a lot of people that want to know.
Yes, I'm in.
So it's we've added a significant amount into this standard, the task group. That we've added a whole chapter for these parking systems, and we've added a whole chapter with better guidance on what your performance-based design goals should be. So we're doing it both ways. We're trying to give people just a lot more structure, which from what we hear, that's just been a gap. They don't have guidance on what to do. So is the intent eventually to have parking lots and parking garages removed from 13 and just have the note to refer to NFPA 88A? I mean, I think that will end up being, 13 is usually going to be your sprinkler standard, but it does point to other standards for very specific. 30. Yeah, 30. So, I think that might end up being the direction it could go. You never know until you get into these technical committee groups if that's a welcome thing for the 13. We don't need their help. We don't know. So, it's been a lot of really big people in our industry involved in these efforts, and it's great because the timing with the Research Foundation with their testing. I mean, it's. I never thought I would get this excited about parking garages, but it's my whole thing right now. It was the talk about burning them. Yeah, light on fire. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Awesome. Melissa, thanks for coming on. Thanks for talking about parking garages. This was awesome. Thanks, Chris.